How dare you?
He was a billionaire who had everything money could buy. Power, respect, mansions, and expensive cars. But there was one thing he never had, a mother's love. And he didn't even know it. Because the woman he thought was dead was actually alive, suffering on the streets right outside his gate. Why would a father lie to his son about something so important? And how did one act of cruelty lead to the most shocking discovery of his life? But that's not all. What if I told you that someone close to him knew the truth all along and was using it to destroy him? Sit back and find out as we dive into the story of how a billionaire mocked a poor beggar at his gate, then found out she was his mother. In the busy city of Lagos lived a young man named Joseph. He was only 32 years old, but his name carried weight everywhere he went. Joseph was a billionaire. He owned 3 luxury hotels, 2 real estate companies, and several car dealerships across Nigeria. His face was always in the newspapers. His name was always on people's lips. Everywhere he went, people bowed, smiled, and called him sir. But Joseph was not a kind man. He was cold, he was bitter. He walked past the poor without even looking at them. When beggars stretched their hands toward him, he would wave them away like flies. Sometimes he would even shout at them, "Get away from me. Go and work like everyone else. Stop disturbing successful people." His workers feared him. His business partners respected him only because of his money. Even his own father, Mr. Gregory, a quiet old man who lived with him in the same mansion, could barely talk to him without Joseph raising his voice. But there was one person who seemed to have mastered the art of handling Joseph. Her name was Victoria. She was Joseph's personal assistant, and she had worked for him for 5 years. Victoria was 28 years old, beautiful, sharp, and always dressed in expensive business suits. She had smooth, dark skin, perfectly styled hair, and a smile that could disarm anyone. On the surface, she was the perfect employee, efficient, loyal, and always one step ahead. But beneath that polished exterior, Victoria was something else entirely. She was a master manipulator, a woman who had learned early in life that survival meant using people before they used you. She came from nothing, grew up in the slums, and clawed her way up through lies, seduction, and betrayal. And now working for one of Nigeria's richest men, she had plans. Big plans. Victoria didn't just want to work for Joseph. She wanted to own him. She wanted his money, his businesses, his power. And she had been patiently setting up her trap for years. Joseph trusted her completely. He told her things he wouldn't tell anyone else. She handled his personal accounts, knew his passwords, managed his schedules. She was inside his life in every way that mattered. But what made Victoria truly dangerous was something Joseph didn't know. Victoria had a secret about his past, about his mother, and she was waiting for the perfect moment to use it. Joseph believed in one thing only: wealth. To him, money was power, money was respect, and if you didn't have it, you were nobody. He never smiled at anyone unless they were useful to him. He never helped anyone unless there was something to gain. His heart was like stone, hard and unmovable. But what Joseph didn't know was that his coldness came from a lie his father had told him many years ago, a lie that had shaped his entire life. When Joseph was just 2 years old, his mother disappeared. He grew up believing she had died. That was what his father told him. And he never questioned it, not once. Deep inside, even though Joseph would never admit it, there was an emptiness, a hollow feeling that no amount of money could fill. But he buried it. He buried it under expensive suits, fast cars, and business deals. He told himself he didn't need anyone. He told himself he was fine alone. But was he really? One sunny afternoon, Joseph decided to visit the local market. It was rare for him to go to such places, but he needed to check on a property he was planning to buy near the market square. Victoria had insisted on coming along. "You shouldn't go alone, sir," she had said with her usual professional smile. "Let me drive you." But Joseph refused. "I don't need a babysitter, Victoria." "I'll be fine." Victoria's smile didn't waver, but inside she was irritated. She didn't like when Joseph went places without her. It made her feel like she was losing control. Joseph wore an expensive suit. His presence stood out. People noticed him. They whispered. Some pointed. Joseph walked through the crowded market with his phone in one hand and a bottled water in the other. He stopped at a small stall to buy a pack of biscuits. He paid the seller, slipped his black wallet into his back pocket, and continued walking. But as he moved through the tight crowd, something fell. He didn't notice. It was his wallet. That wallet held everything important: his driver's license, his business cards, his ATM cards, and some cash. But Joseph kept walking, completely unaware. He got into his car, drove off, and went straight home. Hours later, as the sun was setting, Joseph sat in his large sitting room. He reached for his phone to make a call, then remembered he needed to check something in his wallet. He tapped his pocket. Nothing. He checked the other pocket. Still nothing. His face changed. He stood up quickly and searched his car keys, his bag, even the couch where he had been sitting. Still nothing. "Where is my wallet?" he said out loud, his voice sharp. Victoria, who had been working on her laptop in the adjacent office, heard him and came in quickly. "Is something wrong, sir?" "My wallet is missing," Joseph said, his jaw tightening. "I must have dropped it at the market." Victoria's eyes flickered with something unreadable. "Should I send someone to look for it?" "No," Joseph said firmly. "I'll go myself." He grabbed his car keys and drove back immediately. But by the time he got there, the market was almost empty. The stalls were closing. The lights were dim. He asked a few sellers if they had seen a wallet. They all shook their heads. Joseph's anger began to rise. He clenched his fists, got back into his car, and drove home in silence. His mind was already thinking the worst. Someone must have stolen it. What Joseph didn't know was that Victoria had been tracking his movements all day through an app she had secretly installed on his phone months ago. She knew he had gone to the market. She knew he had lost his wallet. And she was already forming a plan. That same afternoon, near the same market, an old woman sat on a torn mat by the roadside. Her name was Mercy. She was thin, her clothes were dirty and torn, and her hair was rough and uncombed. Mercy was a beggar. Every day, she would sit by the market and stretch out her hand, hoping someone would drop a few naira notes. Most people ignored her, some insulted her, others spat near her feet. But Mercy endured it all. She had no choice. Life had not been kind to her. Many years ago, she had a home. She had a husband. She even had a son, a beautiful baby boy with soft eyes and tiny fingers. But that life was taken from her. Her husband, Gregory, was a cruel man. He drank too much. He chased after other women, and when Mercy tried to talk to him, he would beat her. One night, after another round of drinking, Gregory came home angry. Mercy had asked him where he had been. That was all, but it was enough to make him explode. He grabbed her by the arm, dragged her to the door, and pushed her out into the street. "Get out of my house," he shouted. "You are useless. I don't want to see your face again." Mercy cried and begged, "Please, my son, let me take my son." But Gregory slammed the door in her face. She banged on it. She screamed, but no one opened it. From that night, Mercy never saw her son again. She had no family to run to, no relatives to help her. She had nothing, so she ended up on the streets. And for over 30 years, that was where she stayed. She tried many times to go back, to see her son, to hold him just once. But Gregory had moved to a different house. He had become wealthy over the years through business deals and smart investments. And every time Mercy tried to find him, she was turned away. Eventually, she gave up. She told herself that maybe her son had forgotten her. Maybe he was better off without her. But deep inside, her heart never stopped aching. Now, as Mercy sat by the market that evening, something shiny caught her eye. It was lying near a gutter, half covered by dirt. She stood up slowly, her bones aching, and walked over. She bent down and picked it up. It was a black wallet. Mercy opened it carefully. Inside were ATM cards, business cards, cash, and an ID card. Her hands began to shake. She looked at the name on the card, Joseph Gregory. Her breath stopped. Gregory. That was her husband's name. Could this be? She looked at the business card. There was an address printed on it. Mercy's heart pounded in her chest. She didn't know if this Joseph was related to her husband. But the name was too familiar. She had to know. She had to return this wallet. Maybe, just maybe, she would find answers. But Mercy wasn't alone in that moment. Across the street, hidden in the shadows of a closed shop, someone was watching. It was Victoria. She had driven to the market herself, curious to see if anyone had found Joseph's wallet. She had her own reasons for wanting to know. And when she saw the old beggar pick up the wallet, Victoria's mind began to race. She watched as Mercy examined the wallet. She watched as the old woman's face changed. She saw the tears. She saw the trembling hands. And Victoria, who had done her research years ago when she first started working for Joseph, recognized something in that moment. This wasn't just any beggar. This was Mercy Gregory, Joseph's mother, the woman everyone thought was dead. Victoria had discovered the truth about Mercy 2 years ago while going through some of Mr. Gregory's old documents that Joseph had asked her to organize. She had found hospital records, old divorce papers that were never finalized, and a private investigator's report from years ago that Mr. Gregory had commissioned but never followed up on. The report confirmed that Mercy was alive and living on the streets. Victoria had kept this information to herself, waiting for the right moment to use it. And now, watching Mercy hold Joseph's wallet, Victoria realized that moment had come. But she needed to be careful. She needed to control how and when this information came out, because if used correctly, this secret could give her everything she wanted. Victoria made a decision. She wouldn't interfere, not yet. She would let Mercy return the wallet. She would let Joseph react, and then, when the time was right, she would strike. The next morning, Mercy woke up early. She wrapped the wallet carefully in a piece of cloth and held it close to her chest. She asked for directions and began the long walk to the address written on the card. It took her over 2 hours. Her feet were sore, her body was weak, but she kept walking. When she finally reached the place, her eyes widened. It was a mansion, a huge, beautiful mansion with tall gates, neat flowers, and security guards standing outside. Mercy stood there for a moment, staring. Then she walked slowly toward the gate. One of the guards saw her coming and immediately stepped forward. "Hey, stop there," he said firmly. "What do you want?" Mercy's voice was soft and humble. "Please, sir. I found a wallet. It belongs to someone in this house. I want to return it." The guard looked her up and down with disgust. "A beggar like you found a wallet," he said, laughing. "You probably stole it." Mercy shook her head quickly. "No, sir. I didn't steal it. I found it near the market. Please, just let me give it back." The second guard came closer. "Wait," he said. "Let me see it." Mercy handed over the wallet. The guard opened it and saw the name. His eyes widened. "This belongs to our boss," he said. He looked at Mercy with suspicion. "Stay here. Don't move." He walked inside the compound, and a few minutes later he returned. "He's coming," the guard said. Mercy's heart began to race. She didn't know what to expect. She stood there, waiting, holding her hands together. Then the gate opened wider, and out walked a tall, well-dressed man. It was Joseph. He looked annoyed. His eyes were cold. When he saw the wallet in the guard's hand, he snatched it and opened it quickly. Everything was still inside. He looked up at Mercy, his face twisted with anger. "You," he said sharply, pointing at her. "Where did you get this?" Mercy's voice trembled. "I found it, sir. Near the market. I saw your name and address, so I brought it back." Joseph's eyes narrowed. "You found it?" he repeated, his voice rising. "Or did you steal it and got scared when you saw my name?" Mercy's eyes filled with tears. "No, sir. I didn't steal it. I swear. I only wanted to return it." Joseph stepped closer. His voice was loud and harsh. "You think I'm a fool? You probably took my money and now you're pretending to be a good person. People like you are all the same. Liars, thieves." Mercy shook her head, tears rolling down her cheeks. "Please, sir, I didn't take anything. I didn't touch your money. I only wanted to help." But Joseph wasn't listening. "Get out of here," he shouted, "before I call the police and have you arrested." He turned to the guards. "If I ever see this woman near my gate again, throw her out immediately." Then, without another word, he pushed past her and walked back inside. The gate slammed shut. Mercy stood there, frozen. Her whole body was shaking. She wanted to speak. She wanted to tell him, but the words wouldn't come. Slowly, she turned and walked away. her head down, her heart broken. From the second-floor window of the mansion, Victoria watched everything. She had arrived just in time to see the confrontation, and she smiled, a cold, calculating smile. Everything was going exactly as she hoped. Mercy walked for a long time without knowing where she was going. Her legs felt heavy. Her chest felt tight. She found a quiet corner under a bridge and sat down. She pulled her knees to her chest and cried. She cried for the son she lost. She cried for the life that was stolen from her. And she cried because even after all these years, the pain was still fresh. As she sat there, her mind drifted back to the days when she had a home, back to when she held her baby boy in her arms and sang him to sleep. She remembered his tiny fingers wrapping around hers. She remembered his soft giggles. She remembered how she used to kiss his forehead every night and whisper, "Mommy loves you." But then the memories turned dark. She remembered the beatings. She remembered her husband's angry voice. She remembered the night he threw her out and took her son away. She remembered standing outside the door, crying, begging, but no one came. And she remembered the years that followed, the cold nights on the street, the hunger, the shame, the loneliness. Mercy wiped her face with the edge of her torn wrapper. Maybe he doesn't know, she whispered to herself. Maybe Gregory never told him. Maybe my son thinks I'm dead. The thought gave her a strange mix of pain and hope. She closed her eyes and prayed silently. God, if he is my son, please let him know the truth one day. Let him know I never stopped loving him. Back at the mansion, Joseph sat in his study. He was going through some documents, but his mind kept drifting. He couldn't focus. Something about that old woman bothered him, not because he felt guilty. Number. Joseph didn't do guilt, but something about her face, something about the way she looked at him. It felt familiar. He shook his head and tried to push the thought away. Victoria knocked on his door and entered with a cup of coffee. "You seem distracted, sir," she said sweetly, placing the cup on his desk. "I'm fine," Joseph said curtly. "Was it about that beggar woman?" Victoria asked, her voice concerned. "The one who returned your wallet?" Joseph looked at her sharply. "How do you know about that?" Victoria didn't miss a beat. "The guards told me, sir. They said you were quite upset." She paused. "You know, I've been thinking. Maybe you were too hard on her. She did return your wallet. Everything was still inside, wasn't it?" Joseph's jaw tightened. "That's not the point. People like that are always looking for something. Maybe she wanted a reward. Maybe she wanted to get close to me for some reason." Victoria nodded slowly, as if considering his words. "You're probably right, sir. You can never be too careful." But inside she was planting seeds. Seeds of doubt. Seeds that would grow. Days passed. Joseph went back to his usual routine. Business meetings, phone calls, deals, and more money. But late at night, when the house was quiet, that strange feeling would return. He would lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, and for some reason, he would think about the old beggar. During this time, Victoria was busy. She started making subtle changes in Joseph's life. She recommended a new accountant, someone she secretly had connections with. She suggested Joseph invest in certain properties that would benefit her own hidden portfolio. She was slowly tightening her grip, preparing for the moment when she would make her final move. She also started visiting Mr. Gregory more often. The old man was lonely, and Victoria knew how to be charming when she needed to be. She would bring him tea, sit with him, listen to his stories. And slowly, carefully, she started asking questions about the past. About his wife, about what really happened. One afternoon, as Victoria sat with Mr. Gregory in the garden, she brought up the topic carefully. "Mr. Gregory, I hope you don't mind me asking, but Joseph mentioned once that his mother passed away when he was young. That must have been very difficult for both of you." The old man's face darkened. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice heavy with regret. "I told him she died." "But that wasn't true." Victoria leaned forward, feigning surprise. "What do you mean, sir?" Mr. Gregory looked at her, and for the first time, someone saw the guilt in his eyes. "I threw her out. I was a fool. I was angry all the time, drinking, running around with other women. Mercy was a good woman, but I didn't appreciate her. One night I threw her out and kept my son." I told Joseph she died because I didn't want him to hate me." Victoria's heart raced, but her face remained sympathetic. "That must weigh heavily on you." "Every day," the old man whispered. "Every single day. I tried to find her years ago, hired someone to look. But when I heard she was living on the streets, I couldn't face her. I couldn't face what I had done. So I did nothing." Victoria touched his hand gently. "These things happen, Mr. Gregory. We all make mistakes." But inside she was celebrating. This was even better than she thought. The old man's guilt would make him easy to manipulate. Over the next few days, Victoria began her next phase. She started leaving subtle hints around the house. An old photograph here, a document there. Things that would make Joseph curious. Things that would make him start asking questions. One evening, Joseph decided to go into the storage room. He was looking for some old files his father had kept. As he searched through dusty boxes, he found an old brown envelope. He opened it. Inside were photographs, old photographs. He pulled them out one by one. Most of them were of his father when he was younger. But then Joseph froze. One photograph showed a young woman holding a baby. The woman was smiling. She looked happy. The baby in her arms was wrapped in a small blanket. Joseph turned the photo over. On the back, in faded handwriting, it said, "Mercy and Joseph, 1993. Joseph's heart skipped. He looked at the photo again. The woman, her eyes, her face. He had seen that face before, recently. His hands began to shake. He stared at the photo for a long time. Then it hit him like a wave. The old beggar, the one he had shouted at, the one he had pushed away. She looked just like the woman in the photo. "No," Joseph whispered. "It can't be." But the resemblance was too strong. Before we go any further, take a second to subscribe to the channel, because what happens next will change everything you thought you knew about this story. His mind started racing. His father had always told him his mother died when he was young, but what if that was a lie? What if she didn't die? What if she was alive all this time? Joseph stormed out of the storage room and went straight to his father's bedroom. He knocked hard on the door. "Dad, open the door." The old man opened it slowly, looking confused. "What is it, Joseph?" "It's late." Joseph held up the photograph. "Who is this woman?" he demanded. Mr. Gregory's face went pale. He looked at the photo, then at his son. "Where did you find that?" he asked quietly. "Answer me," Joseph shouted. "Who is she?" The old man sighed and turned away. "That's your mother," he said softly. Joseph's chest tightened. "You told me she was dead." Mr. Gregory didn't respond. He just stood there, his back facing Joseph. "Dad, I'm asking you a question. Is my mother dead or not?" The old man's voice was low and heavy. "I don't know." Joseph stepped closer. "What do you mean you don't know? You threw her out, didn't you?" Mr. Gregory slowly turned around. His eyes were tired. "Yes," he admitted. "I threw her out. She was weak. She was always crying. I didn't want her around anymore. So I sent her away and kept you." Joseph felt like the ground was shaking under his feet. "And you told me she was dead?" His voice cracked. "You lied to me my whole life." The old man said nothing. Joseph's hands were trembling. He looked at his father with a mixture of anger and heartbreak. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" he whispered. Without waiting for an answer, Joseph turned and left the room. He went back to his own room, locked the door, and sat on the edge of his bed. His mind was spinning. He looked at the photograph again. His mother. She was alive, and if the old beggar was her, then he had shouted at his own mother. He had insulted her. He had pushed her away. The next morning, Joseph didn't waste any time. He contacted a private investigator, a sharp young man named Tony who had helped him with business matters before. "I need you to find someone," Joseph said. "A woman. Her name is Mercy. She used to be married to Gregory. That's my father. I need everything. Where she is. What happened to her. Everything." Tony nodded. "Give me a few days." 3 days later, Tony returned with a brown folder. He placed it on Joseph's desk. "I found her," he said. Joseph opened the folder quickly. Inside were documents, old records, and a few recent photos. His heart sank as he read. Mercy had been living on the streets for over 30 years. After being thrown out by her husband, she had nowhere to go. She became a beggar. She had tried multiple times to find her son, but was always turned away. She had no home, no family, no one. The investigator had also found out where she usually stayed, near the old bridge by the market, the same area where Joseph had dropped his wallet. Joseph closed the folder. His eyes were red, his hands were shaking. He stood up, grabbed his car keys, and rushed out. He drove fast, his heart pounding. He had to find her, he had to see her, he had to know for sure. When Joseph reached the area, he parked his car and began walking. He asked a few people if they had seen an old woman who usually sat near the bridge. One woman pointed toward a corner. "She used to sit there," the woman said, "but I haven't seen her in 2 days." Joseph's heart dropped. "Do you know where she is?" The woman shook her head. "But I heard someone say she collapsed." They took her to the general hospital. Joseph didn't wait. He ran back to his car and drove straight to the hospital. At the hospital, Joseph rushed to the front desk. "Please, I'm looking for a woman. Her name is Mercy. She was brought in a few days ago." The nurse checked the records. "Yes, she's here. She had a cardiac arrest. She's in Ward 5. Joseph's legs felt weak, but he pushed forward. He walked down the corridor, his heart racing. When he reached Ward 5, he stopped at the door. He took a deep breath, then walked in. There, on a small bed by the window, lay the old woman. She was asleep. Her face was thin and pale. But it was her. Joseph knew it. He walked closer slowly, his eyes filling with tears. He sat down on the chair beside the bed and just stared at her. This was his mother, the woman who gave birth to him, the woman who loved him, the woman he had shouted at and pushed away. Joseph covered his face with his hands and wept. A few minutes later, Mercy's eyes slowly opened. She blinked a few times, confused. Then she turned her head and saw him. Joseph. The young man from the gate, her breath caught. "Sir," she whispered weakly. Joseph quickly wiped his face and leaned forward. "Please," he said, his voice breaking. "Don't call me sir." Mercy looked at him, confused. Joseph reached out and gently held her hand. "I know who you are," he said softly. "You're my mother." Mercy's eyes widened. Tears began to roll down her cheeks. You know," she whispered. Joseph nodded, his own tears falling. "Yes. I know everything. I know what my father did. I know how you suffered. And I know I shouted at you. I pushed you. I treated you like you were nothing." His voice cracked. "I'm so sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry." Mercy shook her head slowly. "No, my son. You didn't know. You didn't know." Joseph held her hand tighter. "But I should have listened. I should have seen. I was so blind, so cold, so cruel." He looked into her eyes. "Please forgive me." Mercy smiled through her tears. "I forgave you the moment I saw your face," she said. "You are my son. I could never be angry with you." Joseph broke down completely. He rested his head on her hand and cried like a child. Mercy, weak as she was, gently placed her other hand on his head. "It's okay," she whispered. "It's okay, my son. I'm here now." For the next few days, Joseph stayed by his mother's side. He barely left the hospital. He made sure she had the best doctors, the best treatment, everything she needed. And slowly, Mercy began to recover. During this time, Victoria made her move. She had been preparing for this moment for years, and now everything was in place. While Joseph was distracted with his mother, Victoria began transferring funds from Joseph's business accounts into offshore accounts she controlled. She used the access codes she had collected over the years. She forged signatures on documents that transferred several properties into her name. She worked quickly and carefully, knowing she had a limited window. But Victoria made one mistake. She underestimated Mr. Gregory. The old man, consumed with guilt over what he had done to Mercy, had been paying more attention than anyone realized. He noticed Victoria's frequent visits to Joseph's office when Joseph wasn't there. He noticed her making private phone calls, and one night, unable to sleep, he walked past her office and saw her working on documents late at night. Suspicious, Mr. Gregory did something he hadn't done in years. He started investigating. He contacted his own lawyer, someone he had known for decades. And what they discovered shocked him. Victoria had been systematically stealing from his son, millions of naira. Properties, investments, all being funneled into accounts under different names. Mr. Gregory realized he had a chance to make things right. At least partially, he gathered all the evidence and waited for the right moment. Days later, after Mercy had recovered enough to leave the hospital, Joseph took her to a new home. Not the mansion where his father lived. He bought a smaller, quieter house on the other side of the city. A peaceful place with a garden, soft couches, and warm sunlight streaming through the windows. He hired a nurse to take care of her and made sure she had everything she needed. Every day, Joseph would visit. He would sit with her, talk with her, listen to her stories. For the first time in his life, he felt something he had never felt before. Love. Real, deep, unconditional love. Mercy would cook simple meals for him, even though he told her she didn't have to. She would smile at him, touch his face and say, "You've grown so much, my son. I'm so proud of you." And slowly, something inside Joseph began to change. The coldness melted. The bitterness faded. He started smiling more. He started greeting people on the street. He even gave money to beggars without being asked. His workers noticed the change. His business partners noticed it too. Joseph had become a different man, but Victoria was growing impatient. Joseph was spending too much time with his mother and not enough time at the office. It was making it harder for her to complete her plan. She needed to accelerate things. One evening, Victoria decided to visit Joseph at his mother's house. She arrived with a folder full of documents that needed his signature. "I'm sorry to disturb you, sir," she said with her professional smile, "but these are urgent. They need your signature today." Joseph, who was sitting with his mother in the living room, looked irritated. "Can't this wait until tomorrow?" "I'm afraid not, sir. It's about the hotel deal in Abuja. If we don't sign today, we lose the opportunity." Joseph sighed and took the documents. But as he was about to sign, Mercy spoke. Her voice was soft but clear. "Joseph, my son, let me see those papers." Everyone looked at her in surprise. Mercy might have been a beggar for 30 years, but she had once been an educated woman. Before her marriage fell apart, she had worked as a secretary and knew how to read contracts. Joseph handed her the documents, and Mercy began to read. Her face slowly changed. "Joseph," she said carefully, "these papers, they're not what she says they are. This isn't about a hotel deal. These are transfer documents. If you sign these, you'll be transferring 3 of your properties into her name." The room went silent. Joseph snatched the documents back and read them again, this time carefully. His face went dark. He looked up at Victoria, his eyes cold with fury. "What is this?" Victoria's mask finally slipped. For a moment, real fear showed in her eyes. Then she laughed, a cold, bitter laugh. "You really are a fool, aren't you?" she said, her voice now sharp and venomous. "I've been stealing from you for 2 years, and you never noticed. You trusted me with everything, your passwords, your accounts, your businesses. You made it so easy." Joseph stood up slowly, his fists clenched. "How much?" Victoria smiled cruelly. "More than you can imagine. Enough to set me up for life. And you know what the beautiful part is? There's nothing you can do about it. I've covered my tracks too well. I have documentation showing you authorized every transfer. I have emails, signatures, everything. If you try to come after me, I'll destroy you in court." Joseph felt like the ground was falling away beneath him. Everything he had built, everything he had worked for, had been stolen by someone he trusted completely. But then the door opened. Mr. Gregory walked in, followed by 2 police officers and a lawyer. The old man looked at Victoria with cold eyes. "I don't think so," he said quietly. Victoria's face went pale. What is this?" Mr. Gregory held up a file. Evidence, real evidence, bank records, email trails, recorded phone calls, everything that proves what you've really been doing. I may have failed my wife and my son in many ways, but I won't fail him in this." The police officers moved toward Victoria. She tried to run, but they caught her. As they handcuffed her, she screamed at Joseph, "This is all your fault. You and your perfect little reunion with your beggar mother. I had everything planned perfectly until she showed up." Then her eyes turned to Mercy, filled with pure hatred. "I knew who you were the day I saw you pick up that wallet." I knew everything. I could have helped you. I could have told Joseph the truth. But why would I? You were more useful to me suffering on the streets. Your misery was my opportunity. Mercy looked at Victoria with sadness, not anger. I will pray for you, she said softly. Victoria laughed bitterly as the police led her away. Keep your prayers. I don't need them where I'm going. After Victoria was taken away, Joseph stood in silence. He looked at his father. Why did you help me? After everything. Mr. Gregory's voice was heavy with emotion. Because I've already lost so many years with both of you. I couldn't let someone else destroy what little chance I have to make things right. He looked at Mercy, his eyes filled with tears. Mercy, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't deserve it, but I want you to know that not a day has gone by when I haven't regretted what I did. Mercy was quiet for a long moment, then she spoke, her voice gentle but firm. Gregory, what you did to me changed my entire life. You took away my son, you took away my home, you took away everything. I spent 30 years on the streets, hungry, cold, and alone. Do you know what that feels like? The old man's shoulders shook. No, I don't, and I'm so sorry. I suffered, Mercy continued. I cried every night for my son. I wondered if he was eating well, if he was happy, if he even remembered me. And all that time, you were living in comfort, lying to him, making him believe I was dead. She paused. But I also learned something on those streets. I learned that bitterness only destroys the person carrying it. I learned that holding on to hate is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. She looked at Mr. Gregory directly. I forgive you, Gregory. Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace, and I can't have peace while holding on to anger. Mr. Gregory broke down completely. He fell to his knees and wept like a child. Joseph watched this scene, feeling emotions he had never felt before: pain, compassion, understanding. His mother, who had every right to be vengeful, had chosen forgiveness instead. And in that moment, something shifted in Joseph's heart. Over the next few weeks, the full extent of Victoria's crimes came to light. She had stolen over 200 million naira from Joseph's accounts. She had transferred ownership of 5 properties. She had even taken out loans using his name and businesses as collateral. The legal battle was long and exhausting, but with the evidence Mr. Gregory had gathered, most of Joseph's assets were recovered. Victoria was sentenced to 15 years in prison for fraud, theft, and forgery. During one of the court hearings, Joseph came face to face with Victoria one last time. She looked different now. Her expensive clothes were gone. Her perfectly styled hair was now plain. Her confident smile had been replaced with bitterness. I hope you're happy, she said to Joseph as the guards prepared to take her away. You got your mother back. You got your money back. You got everything. Joseph looked at her with sadness, not anger. Victoria, I'm not happy that you're going to prison. I'm sad that you had so much potential and wasted it on greed, sad that you chose to hurt people instead of building something real. Don't preach to me, Victoria spat. You don't know what it's like to come from nothing. To fight and claw your way up, only to still be treated like you're nothing. I did what I had to do to survive. No, Joseph said quietly. You did what you wanted to do. My mother came from nothing too. She lost everything. She lived on the streets for 30 years, but she never became cruel. She never became bitter. She never hurt anyone. You didn't steal because you had to. You stole because you wanted to. Victoria had no response to that. As the guards led her away, she looked back one last time, and for just a moment, Joseph saw something in her eyes. Not anger, not hatred, but regret. Real, deep regret. Then she was gone. Life slowly returned to normal, but it was a different kind of normal. Joseph moved his mother into a beautiful apartment closer to his mansion. He visited her every single day, sometimes twice a day. They would sit together for hours, just talking. Mercy would tell him stories about when he was a baby, about the songs she used to sing to him, about how he would giggle when she tickled his feet. Joseph learned so much about his mother during those conversations. He learned that she loved to read, so he bought her hundreds of books. He learned that she used to paint before her marriage fell apart, so he set up an art studio in her apartment. He learned that she had always dreamed of going back to school, so he enrolled her in adult education classes. Watching his mother discover joy again was the most beautiful thing Joseph had ever witnessed. He saw her smile grow brighter each day. He saw her eyes light up when she talked about her art classes. He saw her confidence return as she made friends with other students. But there was still one more thing that needed to happen. One more conversation that needed to take place. One Sunday afternoon, Joseph organized a small gathering at his mother's apartment. He invited Mr. Gregory. At first, Mercy was hesitant, but Joseph asked her gently, "Mum, I think there are things that need to be said. Will you do this, for me?" Mercy agreed. When Mr. Gregory arrived, the tension was thick. He stood at the door, uncertain. "Come in, Gregory," Mercy said quietly. "Sit down." Mr. Gregory sat across from her, hands shaking. "I've been thinking about everything," Mercy began, "about our marriage. About the night you threw me out. We were both young and foolish, but you've been living in your own prison all these years." "Every day, Mercy," Mr. Gregory admitted. "I wanted to find you. But when I learned you were on the streets, I was too ashamed." "You were a coward," Mercy said bluntly. "Your cowardice hurt our son. Joseph grew up without a mother because of your lies." Joseph spoke up. "Dad, I spent my whole life hating weakness. But now I know Mum isn't weak. She's the strongest person I've ever met. She survived 30 years on the streets and never lost her humanity. That's real strength." Mr. Gregory covered his face. "I know, son. I'm so sorry." Mercy spoke again, softer now. "Gregory, I forgive you, but we can never have what we had. For Joseph's sake, we can try to be civil." "That's more than I deserve," Mr. Gregory said. "Thank you." As months passed, Mr. Gregory kept his distance but showed respect. He funded a charity in Mercy's name. Mercy blossomed, teaching art to underprivileged children. Joseph used his wealth differently, building housing for the poor and funding scholarships. His businesses thrived because people respected his character now. Joseph's mother's suffering had become a catalyst for change. People treated the homeless differently, with more compassion. One evening, Joseph stood watching his mother laugh with people. He thought about Victoria in prison, his father trying to make amends, and the cold man he used to be. He realized this was the true meaning of wealth. Not money, but relationships, love, and compassion. 3 years after their reunion, Mercy fell ill. Despite the best medical care, there wasn't much time left. Joseph was devastated. He spent every moment by her bedside. "I got to see my son again," Mercy said weakly. "I got to know him. That's more than I hoped for." 3 years isn't enough," Joseph said, voice breaking. "We lost 30 years. Mercy smiled gently. "It's not about quantity. It's about quality. These 3 years have been the happiest of my life." On her last day, Mercy gathered everyone important to her. "Life will hurt you," she said, voice weak but clear. "But the question is what you do with what life gives you. I lost everything, but chose to keep loving. And in the end, I got back more than I lost." She reached for Joseph's hand. "Promise me you'll keep being kind, keep helping people. That's the only thing that matters." "I promise, Mum," Joseph said through tears. Mercy looked at Mr. Gregory. "Stop carrying the guilt. I've forgiven you. Now forgive yourself." Then Mercy closed her eyes. "I'm tired now. I'm ready to rest." With her son holding her hand, Mercy took her last breath. She died with a smile on her face. The funeral was the largest Lagos had seen. Thousands came because Mercy had touched them all. Joseph gave the eulogy, speaking about his mother's strength and the lesson she taught him, that true wealth isn't measured in money, but in love and impact. Years later, Joseph erected a statue in the market square where his mother used to beg. The plaque read, "Mercy Gregory." She had nothing, yet she gave everything. Beneath it, Joseph built the Mercy Gregory Center for the homeless, providing food, shelter, medical care, and job training. Joseph continued his mother's work for the rest of his life. He never forgot the lesson he learned the day he mocked a poor beggar at his gate and then found out she was his mother. Every person has a story. Every person has value. Every person deserves respect. And whenever someone asked about his success, Joseph would say, I'm successful because of what my mother taught me, that the only wealth worth having is the wealth you can give away. Thank you so much for watching this story all the way to the end. If this story touched your heart, please drop a comment below and let me know what you think. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another powerful story like this. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.